yeah, I've finally invested in a new synth. You can probably see it there just over my shoulder. And you know, I think a lot's happened since you last saw me. Not just that it gets dark by 4 p.m. now. It's that time of year, so I released an EP of some tunes with me playing saxophone, which is unusual, I think, and I want to do more of that, so hopefully there will be more. Quite interesting, because one of them was a cover, which I guess isn't unusual in the world of jazz. It was a Tom York cover, and I think that you know, they say you should do covers because it's a good way of getting attention on places like Spotify, and it did seem to go down quite well with people, which is nice. I really like that tune, and I think the band did a good job at producing the kind of sound I wanted. Actually, I've recorded a walkthrough through the different versions of the mix and master of that actual track on my Patreon, so I might actually put a bit of that on here. Actually, just talking about how the difference, just talking about the difference between my own mix, the professional mix done by a professional mix engineer, and the mastered version done by a professional mastering engineer, and showing the differences. It's interesting, I think, and I think like if you've not had something mastered before, it's interesting to hear the difference from the pre-master to the master. Anyway, so yeah, I put a bit of that in this segment. I've released a sample pack, so a new sample pack, a new ambient sample pack, which I enjoyed doing, and it just so happened that I bought this new synth just in time so that some sounds from that instrument got into the sample pack. Yeah, so if you're interested in that, and if you brought my first ambient sample pack, then I'll put a link below if you want to check that out. There's also another sample pack I made recently in collaboration with a drummer called Darren Beckett, and it's basically ride cymbals played in different ways with different sticks and brushes and different ride cymbals also. And it's just because I really found that when I'm doing film scoring work, often I just need this sort of rhythmic texture which creates drive and rhythm, but is very subtle, and like a ride cymbal. And it's quite hard to actually find, what I found it difficult to find, loops and things like that, which were basically just a good drummer playing a ride cymbal in interesting ways, interesting but simple patterns. So I made it myself, and you can download that too. I'll put a link to that below. Yeah, anyway, this new synth, let's have a look. Yeah, there you go, the Artemis from Dreadbox. I really love this, and I'll show you a bit now, actually, see what you think. Let's play through some patches here. Lovely. And then I love it. If I skip back to my mix at that same point. And his mix. All right, so yeah. There's more space, and more balance, and more 3D space, I think. Let's check out the master. So from the top. All right, I just say this is mastered by Alex de Turk. Here we go. All right, it sounds like a record now. Just wanted to say one thing about the sample pack I mentioned already, the new ambient sample pack 2 that I've just released. I've been using samples, loops from that in this video, so what you're hearing is sourced from that sample pack. I hope you like them. I worked hard to make them quite musical and original, and yet still malleable to serve the purpose of being sound sources, basically. Nice sound sources that you can use in your own project and still retain a sense of individuality. They're also quite useful for using in instruments like cycles from Slate and Ash. I might actually just do a video soon just outlining how I do that. It's such a great way of creating very individual sounds. Unique sounds basically. And if the sound source from the start is something fairly unique, then that's what we want, isn't it? Unique. So yeah, please check them out. I'll put a link, and I hope you like them. Okay, I have to head off for a gig now. I am playing in a venue in Eastbourne, and that's going to be a shock to the system, playing some jazz. All right, thank you for watching. See you soon. you.